I don't know why I thought a road trip through the Midwest would fix me. Maybe it was the monotony of my life. Same job, same apartment, same regrets piling up like unpaid bills. So I packed a bag, threw it in the trunk of my beat-up sedan, and hit the road with no destination in mind. Just me, the open highway, and a playlist of classic rock to drown out the noise in my head. That was the plan anyway. But plans have a way of unraveling when you're alone in the middle of nowhere. It was my third night on the road, somewhere in rural Nebraska, when things started to feel off. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple. I'd been driving for hours, the endless cornfields blurring into a monotonous sea of stalks. My phone had no signal, and the GPS had been acting up, flickering between routes before settling on a single, unmarked road that stretched into the darkness. "Keep straight for 47 miles, it read. No towns, no gas stations, just a thin ribbon of asphalt cutting through the fields. I should have turned back. Something in my gut told me to find another route. But I was tired, stubborn, and low on gas. The last station I'd passed was 30 miles back, and my tank was hovering just above empty. So I kept driving, the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of corn stalks in the wind my only company. That's when I saw the sign. It was old, rusted, barely legible under the weak glow of my headlights. "Welcome to Harrow's End." No population count, no home of the famous whatever. Just those words, jagged and faded, like the town itself had been forgotten. I slowed down, scanning the road ahead. There was nothing, no houses, no lights, just more corn and that endless road. My GPS didn't acknowledge the sign. It still insisted I was on some nameless highway. I pressed the gas, eager to leave the sign behind, but the air in the car grew heavy, like someone had turned up the heat. My palms were slick on the steering wheel, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I told myself it was just fatigue, maybe dehydration. But then I heard it, a faint whisper, like static from a radio tuned to nothing. It was coming from the passenger seat. I froze, my eyes darting to the empty seat beside me. Nothing. Just my duffel bag and a half-empty water bottle. The whisper came again, louder this time, a jumble of syllables that didn't make sense but felt urgent, desperate. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop in the middle of the road. My heart pounded as I fumbled for the radio knob, thinking it must have turned on by itself. But the radio was off. The car was silent except for my ragged breathing. "Okay, Matt," I muttered to myself. "You're losing it. Just keep driving." I started moving again, but the whispering didn't stop. It grew clearer, forming words I could almost understand. "Stay. Don't run." I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles white. The road seemed narrower now, the corn pressing closer, like it was trying to swallow the car. My headlights caught something up ahead, a figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes again, the car screeching to a halt. The figure didn't move. It was tall, humanoid, but wrong somehow. Its limbs were too long, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. It stood perfectly still, silhouetted against the darkness. No face visible under the brim of what looked like an old hat. My headlights flickered, and for a split second, the figure was gone. Then it was back. Closer, maybe 10 feet from the hood. I didn't think. I threw the car into reverse, flooring it. The engine roared, but the car barely moved, like it was stuck in mud. The figure tilted its head, and I swear I heard a low, guttural chuckle over the sound of the engine. My rearview mirror showed nothing but darkness, but but I kept my foot on the gas, praying I'd hit something solid, anything to get away. Then the car lurched forward, not backward. I hadn't touched the gear shift. The figure was gone, but the road ahead was different now. The corn was gone, replaced by barren, cracked earth. The sky was wrong too. No stars, just a void that seemed to press down on the car. My GPS was blank, the screen glowing a dull red. The whispering was louder now, a chorus of voices overlapping, screaming, pleading. I don't know how long I drove. Time felt broken, like I was stuck in a loop. The road never curved, never ended. My gas gauge hadn't moved, still hovering just above empty. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe I'd crashed and this was some kind of coma. But the cold sweat on my skin, the ache in my hands from gripping the wheel, felt too real. Then I saw the town. It appeared out of nowhere, a cluster of dilapidated buildings lining the road. Harrow's End. The sign was there again, identical to the one I'd seen before. But now it was surrounded by crooked street lights that flickered with a sickly yellow glow. The buildings were old, their windows boarded up or shattered. But there were signs of life. Faint shadows moving behind the boards, the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel. I didn't want to stop, but the car slowed on its own, the engine sputtering. I cursed, slamming my fist on the dashboard, but it was no use. The car rolled to a stop in front of a diner, its neon sign buzzing faintly. "Eat here." The voices in the car were deafening now, a cacophony of screams and laughter. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound was inside my head. I grabbed my phone, praying for a signal. But the screen was dead, not just off. Dead. The glass cracked like it had been smashed. I hadn't touched it. My hands were shaking as I reached for the door handle. I didn't want to get out, but the air in the car was suffocating, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was sitting in the back seat, watching me. The diner's door creaked as I pushed it open. The inside was dimly lit, the air thick with the smell of grease and something metallic, like blood. A waitress stood behind the counter, her back to me. She was humming a tune I didn't recognize, her movements slow and deliberate as she wiped the counter with a rag. The booths were empty, but there were plates of food on the tables, untouched, the meat glistening under the fluorescent lights. "Hey," I said, my voice hoarse. "I need help. My car—" She turned, and my words died in my throat. Her face was wrong. Her eyes were too large, too black, like pools of ink. Her mouth stretched into a smile that showed too many teeth, all sharp and uneven. "Sit," she said, her voice echoing with the same whispers I'd heard in the car. "Eat." I backed toward the door, but it was locked. I hadn't locked it. I hadn't even heard it click. The waitress didn't move, but the shadows in the diner did, slithering along the walls, forming shapes that looked almost human, but weren't. My chest tightened, my breath coming in short gasps. I banged on the door, screaming for someone, anyone, to help. That's when I saw the photo on the wall. It was old, sepia-toned, showing a group of people standing in front of the diner. They were smiling, but their eyes were empty, like they'd been hollowed out. In the center was a man who looked like me. Same jawline, same tired expression. The date on the photo read 1953. I don't remember much after that. I woke up in my car, parked on the side of a different highway, the sun blazing overhead. My phone was working again, showing a full signal. The GPS said I was 200 miles from where I'd been last night. My tank was full, the needle steady on F. There was no sign of Harrow's End. No rusted sign, no diner. Just a normal road, with cars passing by like nothing had happened. I tried to convince myself it was a dream, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But there's a photo in my glove box now, one I don't remember taking. It's me, standing in front of that diner, smiling with eyes that aren't mine. And sometimes, when I'm driving at night, I hear the whispers again, faint but growing louder, telling me to come back. I don't know what Harrow's End is, or what it wants, but I know I'll never take that road again. And if you're ever driving through Nebraska and see a sign for a town that shouldn't exist, keep going. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because some roads don't lead anywhere. They just take you. The road was supposed to be my escape. After the breakup, the layoffs, and the suffocating weight of my own failures, I needed to get out of Chicago. No plan, no destination. Just me, my old pickup truck, and a tank full of gas. I figured driving south through Illinois, maybe toward Kentucky, would clear my head. The open highway, the hum of tires on asphalt, the promise of something better around the next bend. That's what I told myself. But some roads don't lead to freedom. Some roads lead you straight to hell. It was late, maybe 2 a.m., on my second night of driving. I'd been sticking to back roads, avoiding the interstates because I wasn't in a hurry. The sky was a blanket of stars, and the air smelled of damp earth and pine. My radio had been cutting in and out, so I'd turned it off, letting the silence fill the cab. That's when I noticed the fog. It rolled in fast, thick and gray, swallowing the road ahead. My headlights barely cut through it, turning the world into a hazy tunnel. I slowed down, squinting through the windshield. The road signs were gone, and my phone's GPS was useless. No signal, just a spinning icon. I wasn't worried yet. Fog happens. I'd find a gas station or a motel soon enough. But the fog didn't lift. It got thicker, heavier, until I could barely see 10 feet in front of the truck. The air in the cab felt wrong, too. Cold, despite the heater blasting. And there was a faint smell, like something rotting just out of sight. I kept driving, slower now, my hands tight on the wheel. That's when I saw the light, a single red glow, faint but steady, maybe 100 yards ahead. It wasn't a taillight or a road flare. It was too still, too deliberate, like it was waiting for me. I eased off the gas, my gut telling me to turn around, but the fog was so dense I couldn't see the road behind me. Going forward was my only option. As I got closer, the light grew brighter, and I realized it was coming from a car. An old sedan parked crooked on the shoulder, its driver's side door wide open. The red glow was from the interior light, casting an eerie hue on the fog. I stopped a few yards back, my engine idling. No one was around. No driver, no passengers, just the car, abandoned in the middle of nowhere. I should have kept going. Every instinct screamed at me to floor it and get the hell out of there. But what if someone was hurt? What if they needed help? I grabbed my flashlight from the glove box, a heavy mag light that doubled as a club, and stepped out. The fog was colder than I expected, clinging to my skin like damp cloth. The silence was absolute. No crickets, no wind, just the low hum of my truck's engine. "Hello?" I called, my voice swallowed by the fog. No answer. I edged toward the sedan, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the haze. The car was old, maybe from the 80s, with rusted fenders and cracked windows. The interior was worse. Torn seats, a dashboard covered in dust. And that smell, stronger now, like meat left out too long. The keys were still in the ignition, dangling from a worn leather fob. I swept the flashlight around, looking for tracks or signs of a struggle. Nothing. Just the road, the fog, and the car. I was about to head back to my truck when I heard it. A faint tapping, like fingers on glass. It was coming from the sedan's trunk. My heart kicked into overdrive. I called out again, louder this time, but there was no response. Just that steady tap, tap, tap. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was adrenaline, maybe stupidity. I popped the trunk. The smell hit me first, a wave of decay that made me gag. Inside was a pile of blankets, stained and filthy, and something else. Something that moved. A hand, pale and thin, reached out from the blankets, the fingers twitching like they were trying to grab me. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. And that's when I heard the voice. "Help me," it whispered, barely audible, like it was coming from underwater. It wasn't human. It couldn't be. The words were wrong, stretched and distorted, like a tape played too slow. I scrambled for the flashlight, my hands shaking. And when I aimed it back at the trunk, the hand was gone. The blankets were still, the trunk empty except for that god-awful smell. I slammed the trunk shut and ran back to my truck, my boots slipping on the damp asphalt. I locked the doors, threw the truck into gear, and peeled out, the fog swirling in my wake. The red light faded behind me, but the tapping didn't stop. It was in the truck now, faint but insistent, coming from the bed. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see that hand clawing at the back window. There was nothing, just fog and darkness. The road seemed to stretch forever. No turns, no intersections, just an endless straight line. My gas gauge was dropping faster than it should have, the needle creeping toward empty even though I'd filled up that morning. The fog never lifted, and the tapping grew louder, joined by that voice again, whispering my name. Jake, Jake. I hadn't told anyone my name. Not out here. I don't know how long I drove. Hours, maybe. The dashboard clock was frozen at 2:13 a.m. My phone was dead, the screen black no matter how many times I mashed the power button. The whispering turned into laughter, low and guttural, like it was mocking me. I screamed at it to shut up, my voice cracking. But it only got louder. Then I saw the sign. It was wooden, splintered, the paint peeling. Last mile. 1. No town name, no directions, just those words carved deep into the wood. A mile later, another sign. Last mile, 1, then another, and another. Always the same distance, always 1 mile. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely steer, but I couldn't stop. The truck wouldn't let me. Every time I eased off the gas, the engine revved on its own, pushing me forward. The fog parted just enough to reveal a bridge up ahead, old and rusted, spanning a river I couldn't see. The tapping was deafening now, a frantic rhythm that matched my pulse. The laughter was everywhere, inside the truck, inside my head. I floored it, aiming for the bridge, praying it would lead somewhere, anywhere else. As I crossed, the fog cleared, and I saw them. Figures on the bridge, dozens of them standing in rows. They were human-shaped but wrong. Too tall, too thin, their faces blank except for wide, gaping mouths. They didn't move, didn't blink, just watched as I sped past. My headlights caught their eyes for a split second, and I swear they weren't eyes at all, just holes, endless and black. The truck lurched as I hit the other side of the bridge. The figures were gone, the fog was gone, and the road was different. Paved, lined with trees, like I'd been dropped into another world. My gas gauge was back to half full, the clock ticking normally again. The tapping had stopped, and the laughter was gone. I pulled over, my whole body trembling, and just sat there, trying to breathe. I don't know where I am now. The next town I hit had no record of a bridge like that, no road called Last Mile. My truck bed was empty, but there's a scratch on the tailgate, deep and jagged, like something tried to claw its way out. And sometimes, when I'm driving at night, I hear it again, that tapping, faint but there, like it's waiting for me to stop. I've tried to forget it, to tell myself it was a trick of the mind. But there's a photo on my phone, one I don't remember taking. It's me, standing on that bridge, smiling. Behind me are the figures, their mouths open, their hands reaching. I deleted it, but it keeps coming back, always there when I check my gallery. If you're ever on a back road in Illinois and the fog rolls in, don't stop. Don't look for red lights. And if you see a sign for the last mile, turn around. Because some roads don't end, they just keep you. I needed to get away. The city had been choking me. Dead-end job, a string of bad decisions, and the kind of loneliness that gnaws at you in the dark. So I did what any desperate man might. I threw some clothes in a backpack, filled up my old Jeep, and hit the road. No map, no plan, just the urge to drive until the weight on my chest lifted. I headed west from Denver, chasing the Rockies, figuring the mountains might have answers the city didn't. That was my first mistake. It was my fourth night on the road, somewhere in the high desert of Utah. The stars were sharp, the air crisp, and the highway was a lonely stretch of black cutting through scrubland. I'd been driving since dusk, my eyes heavy, my coffee long gone. The radio was dead. No stations out here, just static that hissed like a distant storm. My phone was useless too. The signal lost hours ago. I wasn't worried. I liked the solitude. Or at least, I thought I did. The road started to climb, winding into the foothills. My headlights swept across jagged rock faces and twisted junipers, their shadows dancing like they were alive. I was half asleep, lulled by the rhythm of the Jeep's engine, when I saw the turnoff. It wasn't on my GPS, which had frozen on a blank screen, but there it was. A narrow dirt road branching off the highway, marked by a single wooden sign. The paint was chipped, the words barely legible. Hollow turn, 5 miles. No town name, no distance to anywhere else. Just that. I don't know why I took it. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I was just tired of the highway's monotony. The Jeep's tires crunched on gravel as I left the pavement behind. The road was rough, flanked by steep cliffs on one side and a sheer drop on the other. My headlights barely reached the next curve, and the darkness seemed to press in, thicker than it should have been. The air in the Jeep grew stale, and there was a faint smell, like damp earth and something sour I couldn't place. I drove for what felt like hours, though the odometer barely ticked up. The sign had said 5 miles, but there was no town, no lights, just the road twisting deeper into the mountains. My gut started to churn, that primal instinct that tells you you're somewhere you shouldn't be. I decided to turn back, but when I slowed to make a U-turn, the road behind me was gone. Not blocked, gone. My headlights showed only a wall of rock, like the mountain had shifted to trap me. My heart started pounding. I gripped the wheel, telling myself it was a trick of the light, a dead end I hadn't noticed. I kept driving, hoping the road would loop back to the highway. That's when I heard it. A low hum, like a tuning fork struck deep underground. It wasn't coming from the Jeep. It was in the air, in my bones, vibrating through me. I turned off the engine, thinking it might be mechanical. But the hum didn't stop. It got louder, joined by a faint scratching, like nails on metal. Coming from the cargo area. I froze, my breath shallow. The scratching was rhythmic, deliberate. I glanced in the rearview mirror, but the back of the Jeep was dark, my gear piled high. I grabbed my flashlight, a cheap thing I'd bought at a gas station, and twisted in my seat, shining it into the cargo area. Nothing, just my backpack, a cooler, and some blankets. The scratching stopped the second the light hit, but the hum was still there, burrowing into my skull. "Okay, Nick," I whispered, and my voice shaky. "Get a grip. Find the highway." I started the engine, but the Jeep sputtered, the dashboard lights flickering. The gas gauge, which had been half full, now showed empty. That wasn't possible. I'd filled up 80 miles back. I slammed my fist on the dash, cursing, and the scratching started again, louder, closer, like it was right behind my seat. I whipped around, flashlight in hand. But there was nothing. The hum turned into a voice, faint and garbled, like someone muttering through a wall. "Stay. Here." I floored it, the Jeep lurching forward. The road was narrower now, the cliffs closing in, the drop-off yawning to my right. My headlights caught something up ahead, a figure, standing in the middle of the road. It was tall, too tall, its body bent at wrong angles, like a marionette with half its strings cut. Its face was hidden in shadow, but I could feel it watching me. Its presence heavy, like a storm about to break. I swerved, the Jeep's tires skidding on loose gravel. The figure didn't move, but as I passed, my side mirror showed it turning, its head snapping toward me with unnatural speed. I didn't look back. I kept driving, the road twisting tighter, the cliffs so close I could have reached out and touched them. The scratching was constant now, a frantic clawing, and the voice was clearer, whispering my name. "Nick, Nick." The Jeep's engine started to choke, the speedometer dropping even as I pressed the gas harder. The dashboard lights went out, plunging the cab into darkness, except for the weak glow of my headlights. Then I saw the town. It appeared out of nowhere, a cluster of sagging buildings huddled against the cliff. Hollow Turn. The sign was there again, identical to the one I'd seen, but now it was surrounded by rusted streetlights that flickered like dying stars. The Jeep rolled to a stop in front of a building that looked like an old general store, its windows boarded up, the paint peeling in long strips. The hum was deafening now, a chorus of voices overlapping, some screaming, some laughing. I grabbed my flashlight and a tire iron from under the seat, my hands trembling. The scratching was coming from the passenger side now, like something was trying to get in. I didn't look. I couldn't. I stepped out, the air cold and heavy, the smell of rot overwhelming. The town was silent, except for the hum, but it wasn't empty. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision, darting behind buildings, their shapes wrong. Too long, too thin. I called out, my voice cracking, but there was no answer. Just the echo of my own words bouncing off the cliffs. The store's door was ajar, creaking on rusted hinges. I pushed it open, the tire iron raised. Inside was a mess. Overturned shelves, shattered jars, and a counter covered in dust. There was a mirror on the wall, cracked but intact, and in it, I saw myself. But it wasn't me. The reflection was smiling, its eyes too wide, its teeth too sharp. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight, and the reflection laughed, a sound that matched the voices in my head. I ran, the tire iron still in my hand, back to the Jeep. The door was open, though I'd locked it. My backpack was torn apart, the contents scattered across the seats. There was something else. A handprint on the windshield. Too large to be human, the fingers splayed like a spider's legs. The scratching started again, from inside the Jeep this time, and the voices screamed, "Stay! Stay!" I didn't think. I jumped in, slammed the door, and turned the key. The engine roared to life, the dashboard lights flaring. I peeled out, the tires spitting gravel, and the road opened up, the cliffs falling away. The town vanished behind me, swallowed by the darkness. The hum faded, the scratching stopped, and the voices went silent. I drove until dawn, the highway reappearing like it had never been gone. I'm in a motel now, somewhere in Nevada. The Jeep's gas tank is full, though I don't remember stopping. My phone works again, but there's a photo in my gallery I didn't take. It's me, standing in front of that store, the reflection from the mirror behind me, smiling. I deleted it, but it's still there every time I check. I've tried to find Hollow Turn on a map. It doesn't exist. The highway I was on doesn't have a turnoff like that. But there's a mark on my tire iron, a deep gouge that wasn't there before, like something tried to claw it from my hand. And at night, when I close my eyes, I hear the hum again, faint but growing, calling me back. If you're ever driving through Utah and see a sign for Hollow Turn, don't take it. Don't stop. Keep your eyes on the road and pray the shadows don't follow you. Because some places aren't meant to be found. They find you.